You're listening to the Sanspants Network.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Baseless Speculation, all the pop culture news and all the research so you don't have to. I'm Joel.
I'm Jackson.
And Douches may be dead. Who knows?
Who can say? He's gone. Don't worry about
exactly.
it. Don't let it concern you.
So instead, we're going to ask, hey, did you know that James Cameron almost directed an X-Men movie in the 90s? So, like, what would that have been like?
Whoa. Okay, boy. Okay, boys. Boy.
Like Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, boy. I say.
So I've been reading the MCU book.
Oh yeah,
like The Reign of Marvel Studios by a couple of people.
Uh-huh.
And it's fascinating. Like,
yeah,
there's a few stories in it, like very early on. Of like, you know, when we're talking about when Marvel went almost went bankrupt and was just like selling off the rights to their characters wholesale.
Is that so it goes, does it kind of just tell the whole Marvel story up to the modern day effectively?
Yeah. And so like it goes back to like, you know, the beginning. So it's like even before we get like Iron Man, it goes back to like the days of like X-Men and all of those of like and like Sam Raimi, Spider-Man and that. And like goes into like the 90s X-Men series that kind of like mentions. And early on, one thing that I noticed, because this isn't the only kind of insane thing that Stan Lee did.
Yeah.
But you realize just that Stan Lee was maybe a big hindrance for the company at some point.
That's awesome.
Like, there's a few times where you're like, huh.
What?
Interesting.
In what way?
So,
what would he do?
So there's one. So actually, before we get to this, the Jimmy Cameron stuff.
Yeah.
So one of them was the X-Men animated series in the 90s. The one like the one that everyone loves. One that's come back recently with X-Men 97.
Are you watching that?
I am.
Yeah. Is it good? I hear it's great.
It's so good.
Whenever I see people posting clips and they're like, "It fucking rocks," I'm like, Zama must be so happy.
I am.
Wherever he is, he must be so happy.
Gambit is wearing like it's just incredible. He's got like his midriff going on, and you're like,
I saw a thing that was like, Jean Grey is finally Jean Grey, and something about the credits. Does that mean anything?
So like Jean Grey was replaced by a clone of Jean Grey, Madeline
Classic
Pryor, whatever.
90s
so
Marvel.
Then they've just a little bit of a shift to be like, oh yeah, cool, we're moving it to. Anyway,
that's good stuff.
It's great. So yeah, the first iteration of that.
Yeah.
So Stan Lee pitched what was going to be Xavier and Cyclops, and maybe I want to say a talking animal of some kind in a van with Cerebro, and they would go across America and try and find mutants. And it was kind of almost like a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Scooby-Doo, true believers? Is that what? That's awesome.
That was sort of what he pitched to...
Is that because, wait, did he pitch... Were they like, we want an animated series, Stan Lee?
Yeah. That was his idea. And they were like, no.
They're like, Stan Lee, brother, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is that because, like, the only cartoon... They're like, we need an X-Man cartoon.
Yeah.
And he's like, brother, I seen Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
I don't know if it was a talking... animal, but it might have been, or if it was like Cerebro was, then it's like a Herbie.
The very fact they're in a van is enough.
It was Xavier and Psyche in a van.
Solving. I mean, like, I know they were fighting mutants, but it very much feels like they're solving mysteries across the USA.
Well, I think that would be it.
I think we were robbed of not getting Hanna-Barbera's fucking like X-Men cartoon.
Love the X-Men 90s cartoon, at least with I think the first 4 seasons are really, really good, and like it kind of dips in a bit. But like, I want a world where both exist. I want to see both of those.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
For some reason, like, the way I imagine it is like like, I've never seen Mad Men. But what I imagine every episode of Mad Men is like, where there's like a board meeting and Don Draper, or in this instance, Stan Lee, is facing away, he's looking out the window, and they're squabbling, what are we going to do? And he's like, have you ever seen Scooby-Doo? They're like, my God, he's done it, except not. They're like, what are you talking about, old man?
So that was one case where everyone just kind of ignored him.
Good.
The second one was in relation to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I think it's Avi Arad. was producing all of these. Because Avi Arad was basically like, I'm going to try and help save Marvel by kind of little sections, little piecemeal, and kind of give the rights. Where we are at the moment, where how everyone
Sony's
has
got a
different
bit,
rights and whatever. That's
Disney's
kind of
got
all
a bit,
because of that era.
Okay.
It's shockingly so much is about toy rights.
Yes.
Like it's shockingly so much.
I think one thing you
is
brought
about
up before
toys.
is that in a court case, they had to prove that the X-Men weren't people.
Yeah,
So that they could sell the toys not as like a...
Yeah, so whether action figures or if they were of...
Dolls for boys.
Dolls for boys.
Yeah.
If your toy was human, there would be a tax on it, like a certain tax. But if it was monsters or non-humans, it was cheaper. There's like the tax threshold. The tax
I wonder
was less.
why that was. That's so weird.
Very strange. Anyway, so they had to go to court and be like, no, they are not human. They're homo superior.
Are there any, like, I'm just wondering in those toy lines, the X-Men don't have like a token human that hangs around, do they?
I mean, they kind of do, like back in the early days.
I'm just wondering if you're like, we got all the mutants and then we're going to sell this one toy that's like the Jimmy Olsen or the, what's the Hulk's friend's name? Graham Jones.
No, Rick Jones.
Rick Jones.
Yes.
Like if you were
Graham
selling a Graham Jones, is that like a man I know? I think I know a Graham Jones. Anyway, it's like if you're selling a Hulk toy and a Rick Jones toy, you would have to pay more for the Rick Jones toy. So. Anyway, yeah.
So it's shockingly how much of that is about toy rights, and at least the initial early on of why they ended up making their own, like almost their own studio. And especially like I think it's like Ike Perlmutter was like real mad. I think when it was the X-Men, like the black leather X-Men. They kind of. The Fox kind of moved the release date, and because of that, they weren't ready for toys, and so it's like they lost a lot of potential money was like left on the table they didn't get because the toys weren't ready to be
I wonder what toy sales are like these days. Like that's something I've got no conception of. Being a 32-year-old man, I don't know how do kids. This is maybe crazy. Do kids buy toys?
I don't know, dude.
If you've got a kid, do you buy them a toy?
Let us know.
Yeah,
and if you do, is it like pristine? Don't open the packaging. You can't touch it. They're collectible.
Do people still do that? I guess you maybe buy your kid like a fucking
Funko Pop?
Poppy's Playtime doll or a
Five Nights at Freddy's?
One of them. Freddy Fazbear? I don't know.
Isn't that like with Star Wars? Why Star Wars tended to make like a lot of their money is to do with the toy sales.
Isn't there something where somebody was like, I'll do it, but you got to give me toy sales money, and then they got Mondo big bucks or something?
I believe so. I know Mark Hamill was like, in my contract, it's like at least 1 or 2 of every toy that Star Wars makes. He's like, I get the keep.
Yeah, smart.
And so I think he's got like a warehouses full of Star Wars toys. At least that's what I vaguely remember.
That's
and he's
funny.
like, that's my retirement fund, basically. Because
fair
but
enough.
are they still worth something?
I don't know. Yeah, I got no clue.
Man. Anyway, the second beautiful story about
Stan Lee.
Was I guess during the all the Sam Raimi Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and because Stan Lee's a Spider-Man guy, which that plays a very important point. Stan Lee is a Spider-Man guy.
I'm excited,
and so Avi Arad was like, "This is great. We're finally getting Spider-Man in the live action." And so what we're going to do is, it's kind of early on in the production. We're going to show Stan Lee the previs of Spider-Man swinging from through New York or whatever, right? And so I don't know if you know much about like editing or whatever like that, or special effects, but previs is like pre-visualization.
You've not.
Right? So it's kind of like it's a concept.
It's absolutely.
It's like this is what we can do without all the big flashy CGI.
Sure,
right? And so Avi Arad is like, sick. I'm going to play this. He's going to be stoked. He's going to be so happy that, oh my God, a thing I created.
Spider-Man on
like
the big screen.
Whatever. It was like, this. And Stanley apparently is watching it like without making any kind of sound or like facial expressions, except for maybe nothing but shock and disappointment, and just kind of like staring at the screen like this, like, what? And then Avi Arad overhears Stan whisper, "Is this it?" And that's when Avi Arad realized that he doesn't know what previs means. Shit.
Oh, that's so funny.
So I'm guessing it's previs, like in grayscale, and geometric shapes, and it's like that's what they're gonna show to the people. Oh my God! They throw in Spider-Man. How can you be a true believer now?
That's so funny.
That's beautiful.
Was he when they were like, no, it's not going to look like? But then I guess if you're saying it's not going to look like this, that feels like you're
overcorrecting.
Yeah, like you're, if he knows from the get-go, he's like, oh, it'll look good. But if you're like, I know this looks like shit, Stanley. This fucking sucks, but it will look good in the movie.
Yeah.
Did he like the Sam Raimi movies?
I have no
Who
idea.
knows?
I could, who knows, to be honest. Like, publicly, he might have been like, yes.
Yeah.
And who knows deep in his heart if he did. You hope so.
Is there a thing, is this true about Stanley? Where he was like, basically, the Stanley we know is a character invented by Stanley.
It wouldn't shock
And
me.
if you look at old photos of like the mustache, the glasses, all of those are like intentional affectations so that he looks like everybody's friendly comic book uncle.
Probably.
That's
like,
crazy.
I mean,
He locked into that for like the majority of his life, being Stanley the guy.
I mean, that's like a lot of people do that in terms of like, their self-image. I
Mr.
mean, like,
Beast.
I was going to say Elvis.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he was blonde.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I guess Mr. Beast hasn't changed the way he looks. He's just been like, I will have no personality. I will only make YouTube money.
Yeah.
God bless you, Mr. Beast.
He's doing something.
Send me
I think.
$1,000.
Yeah, please. That'd be nice. Is it also like for Amazon, maybe?
He probably does good. Who knows?
Anyways, so the next wonderful thing that Stanley did for Marvel at this point in time. So this, gotta remember, this is the 90s.
Okay.
Things for Marvel were not good.
Yes, yeah,
They
yeah.
were on the verge of collapse.
They'd sold their characters to fucking source companies or whatever. Yeah,
They were like, oh God, we are in so much debt. And they were trying to fold things up and they were trying to make as much money as possible because they're like, things are bad. So Avi Arad was like, okay, what do we have the rights to? We have the rights to the X-Men. Okay, cool. And somehow they were like I think they sold them to Fox. Like Fox is on board with this.
Yeah.
And they were like, sick. All right, we got James Cameron, Jimmy Cameron.
Jimmy
himself.
Cameron. What did he just? Did he make Titanic? By this
Not
point?
yet. So he hasn't made Titanic at this point in time.
Yeah, I want to know what he's done.
Titanic is going to be the film that he makes after this.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so let's have a quick little squiz here of what exactly I think he's coming off. Let's see here.
I would love, man, when Marvel was selling stuff off. Like, I wonder if there was a character cheap enough that an individual could buy it.
Probably.
That's awesome. I'd love to know those prices. How much was? Imagine just owning Spider-Man.
Like $20 done.
Yeah.
So he's done T2.
Okay.
He's done
fair.
True Lies.
Okay.
So like, it's like, great, some great stuff.
Yeah, okay. So he's extremely established by this point. T2, what a great movie. Yeah, okay.
Right, so they've got James Cameron. They're like, cool, we're going to get the, have a chat to James Cameron about the X-Men.
Sure.
What that might be like. Because like, hey, we've got the rights to this. We know we have the rights to this, which again is going to be an important thing.
Yeah, sure.
So they have the rights to this. Fox have them. They're like, sick. We're going to speak to James Cameron and we're going to, entice him. We're going to have a meeting.
Yeah.
So they're going to bring Avi Arad. We're going to bring, I think they bring Chris Claremont, who is like, big writer of like the X-Men whole X-Men series. Like he's the one that really Stanley might have created the X-Men.
Chris Claremont's the one who
was the one who kind of was like, let's give this like pathos.
Yeah, sure.
And let's like do these big. He's the Dark Phoenix. All the kind of big hits that you sort of know. From like I guess not the most modern era, but like back in the day,
all Chris Claremont.
That was all Chris Claremont. Cool. So they got Chris Claremont in. And then they're like, and we'll also bring in Stan Lee. Mistake.
Why do they keep doing
mistake.
this?
So they get into this meeting.
Yeah.
They start having a chat about the X-Men. I do not know how long this lasted. Clearly, Stan Lee is bored. Stan Lee, a pro of nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. Looks James Cameron in the eye and says, so, I hear you like Spider-Man? From that moment, they no longer talked about X-Men.
Oh, that's awesome.
They only talked about Spider-Man.
That rocks.
Because James Cameron, big Spider-Man
fan. Yeah.
James Cameron was like, I am a big Spider-Man
So
fan. I love Spider-Man. And then they started talking about Spider-Man. And James Cameron's like, well, let's do a Spider-Man film.
Well, yeah, of course.
So he's like, Avi Arad, and maybe, I'm guessing Chris Claremont are like,
okay.
Partly because they don't have the rights to Spider-Man.
Oh,
they don't even know currently who has the rights to Spider-Man. So James
Who was
Cameron,
it? Who had? I guess we'll find out.
I don't remember on the top of my head. I think it's something like a source company.
That's awesome.
Or no, I think it's like Kodak or like a camera company or something along those lines. Again,
Fuck, that rocks.
not the purview of today's episode.
That's awesome.
But it was just, okay, James Cameron's like, sweet, I want to do Spider-Man. He starts writing a script. You can read this script. He starts writing this
I
script.
think I've read bits of this script. It's
He's like,
crazy.
I'm locking in DiCaprio to play Peter Parker. He's like, I'm loving Spider-Man. Got Spider-Man, DiCaprio. It's gonna be good. I think maybe this was the one that had like Malkovich as the Vulture. I'm not entirely sure.
Is this the one that had? So there's a script I read. Okay. A long time ago, I read an article about a script, maybe on cracked.com back in the day.
Back in the day.
And I think what it was is they were like, going over this script. Now, if this is a script I'm thinking of, in it, Doc Octopus calls himself like Mr. Wiener or something. Or he's got a sidekick named Mr. Wiener, and his motivation is he wants to be Spider-Man.
I hope this is correct.
I think that might be someone's called like
either way.
Wiener?
Either way.
Yeah.
James Cameron goes away from that meeting, not thinking about the Merry Mutants, only thinking Spider-Man thoughts, and he's like, I'm going to write a spec script. And not even just like a spec script. He writes a treatment. Like he writes like a whole goddamn like proposal basically of his beautiful Spider-Man story. And he writes it, and he's like, sweet. Who's got the rights to this? Everyone's trying to figure out who has the rights
Kodak
to this.
or some shit.
And so then I guess people start getting wind of that James Cameron is going to be writing or directing a film with Spider-Man. And then everyone starts suing everybody.
Okay, hell
because they're like, you don't have the rights. I got the rights. No, I got the rights. This. And to the point when like James Cameron's like, hey, Fox, come on, let's get the rights to Spider-Man. Everyone's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what's going on. And so then that doesn't get made. James Cameron has to move on. He goes on to direct the Titanic film. And goes on then to say that not directing Spider-Man is like one of the greatest movies he never got to do. Which is beautiful.
I wonder if he would have made Titanic. Well, yes, he would have, because James Cameron wanted to go in the sea. So, like, that's why he made the Titanic, because he wanted to get down there and look at it. So I guess he would have done it anyway.
Yeah. So let's, I guess, for this thought experiment.
Sure.
Let's see, go back in time. RVR, we got a time machine. We go, RVR, I know you want to get Stanley in the meeting. Let me tell you no.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Did you hear about his incredible Scooby-Doo X-Men idea? Maybe look at... We'll table that, because I think...
Do that at some point.
That's pretty good.
But leave Stanley at home. He doesn't want to be here for
He doesn't
this
want to
meeting.
be there. He clearly hates the X-Men.
Yeah, exactly. He's not interested.
Maybe he's bitter. I don't know.
He's an old man. He just doesn't care. Okay, so instead...
Now, let's go, right. James Cameron.
Jimmy Cameron.
Is the 90s. Okay. Terminator has Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It came out in like 91.
Yeah.
The big like I want to say the X-Men when it was like Jim Lee, Chris Claremont redoing the X-Men came out in 90.
What?
I want to say also 91. And so this was kind of like X-Men at their peak.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What in terms of like superhero movies? Just to get like a background, a bit of time and place. What superhero movies had come out by this point? 91. Like in anything, like Toxic Avenger, like what? Because obviously the superhero movie for us today is a genre. But at this point, it was pretty formatively, like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't quite there. So what is Jimmy Cameron basing stuff off what's come before? Or is he in this mad world, like creating the genre with this movie?
So like say The Crow came out in 94.
Okay.
That was one with Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
There's a Captain America film that came out in the 90s, like 1990.
Yeah.
Which, by all accounts, was not good.
Did it even have a theatrical release? That would be crazy.
I doubt it.
Darkman?
So yes, Darkman, when did that come out?
I feel like Darkman was the early 90s too.
Yeah, that was 1990.
Okay.
When did Batman come out? The first Batman
true.
film?
Wasn't it 89, one of the Batman movies? So pre this.
Yeah. So
I think.
Batman Returns was in 92, so Batman came out in either 89 or whatever it was.
Okay.
So quite, you kind of getting those like, it's not a big, I guess, CGI fuckfest.
No. But there are some superhero movies, but they are kind of like largely at this point pretty grounded.
Yeah.
I feel like this would be the first superhero movie to go, because, hey, it's the fucking X-Men.
Yeah.
You gotta go, they got powers that you're gonna have to show on the screen.
Like the first 90s, the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was in 1990.
Okay.
Yeah, like again, you got like the Shadow. So again, you would hope that this would probably be released in a similar kind of time frame of, say, the Titanic, right?
Yeah, okay.
And so like, he's gotten pretty decent with sort of visual effects in the Terminator.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. And like, so it's
I'm just trying to figure
Titanic
out
came out in 97.
Yeah.
So we're looking
Titanic's
sort of
got some
towards
good visual effects too.
end of that era, right?
Yeah,
As opposed to like, the start of like...
That's true, actually. Good point.
So Blade came out in 98.
Yeah, but it's interesting. They're still
Spawn
all
97.
Spawn. Not.
But have you seen some of the CGI
Yeah.
now?
Because I'm not even necessarily worried about
Anyway.
like what the CGI is going to look like. Not even worried. I'm just wondering how would you do it?
Yeah.
Because like say with a character like Beast, are you going to go full practical effects? What do you think is going to be the?
Well, this is where I'm like,
and
okay.
what's the vibe? Do we do like a
Yeah.
heightened sort of like?
So, like, what era as well he's going to do? Is he going to do something like the original team, where it was so Beast is just like a guy, just got big hands and feet, and they've just got the the yellow and yellow and blue sort of suits, right? Or in like do like the early stuff, or you're going to look at it and what it was in the 90s, where it was that Jim Lee design of Cyclops within the blue and the yellow with like the buckles, and then Wolverine in the yellow.
But it's also interesting to think about like say Blade. Even Spider-Man, even
Use your words.
I had another superhero movie in my head, but it's gone. I guess even the Batman, like, oh god,
Like, what are you trying to say?
I'm having a heart attack. Here's what I'm trying to say. Today, when they make a fucking superhero movie, say they make an X-Men movie today. The main thing they're going to be thinking about is I got to make the fans happy. I need to take what everybody thinks of as the X-Men and their most iconic moments and their most iconic looks and put it on the big screen. But in the 90s,
they didn't have
I don't
that.
think anyone was fucking thinking that.
Well,
Blade
no.
is not really based, like, there's the same themes.
Yeah,
but they're not like...
got half a vampire, Daywalker, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you look at the X-Men of the 2000s and you've got the leather jackets, you've got no spandex in sight. Wolverine is not Wolverine is not a short king.
No,
Like,
absolutely.
He's meant to be 5'2".
Yeah, he's meant to be a little...
He's just a little guy, guy with knives.
He's a little guy.
That's what Wolverine should be.
Yeah, and also in the like those X-Men movies, is it? Remind me, is it like the X-Men's already established?
Yeah,
Pretty
and
much,
so
and
what-
then you just see these characters in a adventure, basically.
Yeah. So what they tend to do, or what I seem to think, what like a lot of the like the X-Men is sort of almost not famous for, but what tends to happen over and over and over again, is that if they're not telling the original 5 X-Men original like characters, it's always like we're gonna get they already exist, and we're gonna get someone new in, so that's the audience side.
Ah,
The
yeah,
X-Men
sure,
film,
sure.
the first one did it with Rogue.
Yeah.
In the X-Men animated series, they did it with Jubilee. With the X-Men 97 series, they've done it sort of with Sunspot. So again, it's like a new character who is like, he's the audience surrogate if things don't really know what's going on.
Tell me about the X-Men.
In the comics as well, it's been like Kitty Pryde has been that, where she's like the person who's brand new to the X-Men, and so it's always a good like little jumping on point. Which I kind of think it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, sure.
And if I was thinking about in terms of like in the 90s of where everything was, and then maybe looking at in terms of like who James Cameron has in terms of the actors.
Yeah.
Is like what kind of story you're going to have and who are you going to be cast for it.
Yeah.
Because clearly he wants to work with DiCaprio. And DiCaprio, he's pretty young at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd fill a role like Cyclops.
No.
Maybe like Angel because he's a pretty boy.
Yeah.
But like Angel, he's always been a bit boring in terms of a character. I would put forward that DiCaprio would make a perfect Cannonball.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sam Guthrie.
What I keep thinking, and I really wish I could remember it, is how like oddball the Spider-Man script was, and how completely. I wish I had my little frickin' machine instead of leaving it outside with my can of drink. But like, it's an extremely oddball script where he makes these very strange zigzag decisions about the characters. Mr. Wiener being an example, if that's real. So I feel like there would be a lot of going off the book.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like, here's like a little quick image of Cannonball from the 90s.
Oh yeah, I can see. Yeah. He's
DiCaprio-y. He's DiCaprio-y.
Yeah.
So Cannonball, he's a farm boy. He's hayseed.
He's a hayseed.
He's
the son of the earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's not invulnerable
Son of
when
the soil.
blasting. All he
Yeah.
does is just like he's like a cannonball, and he just shoots himself at people and just
That's
knocks
fabulous
them over.
stuff. Yeah.
Great thing to see in the 90s.
Yeah.
which I think, so that has never really been part of comics of Cannonball's like the fresh, like, oh, hey, we're gonna see.
But
the
they could
X-Men
just,
are. But
again, Jimmy Cameron could just make that happen,
it's going off script.
Yeah.
So I reckon it'd be something like that. And so again, you got like, what storyline are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to do something like the Dark Phoenix straight off the bat? In this day and age, they probably would try. Back then, no.
I think back then you're way more likely to kind of do your own original story, taking bits of lore and elements of like what's already established.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think, again, based on that Spider-Man script and just like the way I think superhero movies happened in the 90s, where it wasn't like.
Well, it's kind of the idea of that team, right?
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, what is the idea of that team? Like, you look at the animated series, they've got, it's pre-established. The X-Men have been there for a while, and you've got, Storm, Beast, Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey.
Yeah.
And then Xavier, right? And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
And then they invent a guy named Morph, or they use Morph from, back in the 60s, like a character called, the Changeling, I think, call him Morph, and they kind of kill him off in the first episode to be like, see, this ain't like your dad's cartoons.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, that's the idea that they had there. And it's like, well, who's the villain? It's going to be Magneto, right? There you go, And then it's like, you got Wolverine's fighting Sabretooth, and they're going to maybe try those bombastic sort of very colourful costumes as well.
For sure.
But again, I'm thinking 90s. So what they could have done, maybe, I don't know if James Cameron would like this, coming off maybe True Lies. But if you get something like, say, I don't know, what was the Red Scare back in the 90s? If we loved the Red Scare, was that kind of more
I think that was more 80s, really. That's when you get what's that fucking movie? Go Wolverines, Red Dawn, or whatever.
I was like Rambo and whatnot.
Yeah, but I feel like that's kind of more the 80s. In the 90s, we're getting
a bit
disillusioned.
Yeah.
90s is where we're kind of like that Gen X, kind of like, whatever, dude, whatever, Trevor, don't worry about it.
Yeah, because it's like, if you're doing a Red Scare, you could have gotten Omega Red as your villain. But I guess if you kind of now in the 90s, things are a bit more like, your dystopian futures,
right? I suppose, yeah.
You could do Days of Future Past in a weird way, which is a great straight out of the bat movie.
It's pretty intense to...
he just came off doing Terminator. You could do a thing where it's like, let's also include time bullshit in this film as well.
Yeah, but
a lot to swallow.
And is he like, I literally just did time travel.
Yeah.
But maybe the idea of the Sentinels. But I don't think you're doing giant robots. It's the 90s. You don't need to be wasting your budget on those giant robots. I think you could do the Sentinels as just guys.
Like robot dudes.
Yeah. And then I think it's the 90s. This just feels right as you the X-Men are a marginalized people, and there's people who don't like the X-Men. I feel like those you keep your anti-mutant league.
So you're Friends of Humanity, current day Orcus, but back then Friends of Humanity. You could do, I don't think so. You wouldn't do the William Stryker stuff.
No.
Because that's very much based in religion.
Yes,
at least in the comics. You kind of see why they changed it now.
Yes, You'd probably avoid that. You'd probably avoid that.
Yeah, I think you'd probably get Friends of Humanity.
Yeah.
And they're trying to be they're ones who are very interested in the anti-mutant league.
Do you think in the 90s you would make them a group, like a social group, which is what I think they are in the comics, or an evil organization? You know what I mean?
What are they in the comics? They're just a group of people.
But what are they? Is it the Klan? Is that what they're saying?
In a way, but they're very upfront about it.
Yeah, weird. Well, the Klan was for a time. But I wonder, because I wonder if you're in the 90s, but then I don't know, is this too cartoony? I was there's the Friends of Humanity who hate the mutants, and they've created a fucking chip or a virus that's making people, or they're making robot guys to hunt them down. But that's pretty goofy. James Cameron feels slightly more grounded than that. I don't know. It's hard to pick, really.
Yeah, because there's a few things you can kind of go down that adapting both the comic and the cartoon series of you maybe try and go, right, well, what's the heart of it? Is it a romance thing?
Oh, yeah.
So you're trying to do that love triangle with Cyclops, Jean Grey,
and Wolverine.
Which, the film, like the 2000s films, they really made Cyclops. Oh, they did Cyclops so dirty.
That's right, yeah, that's what I hear.
So dirty.
They screwed him over.
And then in the cartoons, they sort of, Wolverine was almost like either pining after Jean Grey.
Yeah.
Or getting angry.
Was it surely it wasn't this cartoon. Wasn't there an X-Men cartoon where they just made him Australian for no reason?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That was like the Kate Pride and
That's
the X-Men.
awesome.
Like Pride of the X-Men. It was like, Kitty Pryde was there.
What?
And
How does that happen?
Just this Wolverine. I think you can watch that all on YouTube.
Yeah, why would they do that? It was an official thing. They know he's Canadian. That's like a big part of the character, and they were like, did they not know the difference?
Well, this is another thing to point out, maybe, is when they were making the 2000s X-Men.
Yeah.
And one of the people on, like behind the scenes kind of thing was just like, no, we need to make it a bit more comic book accurate with Wolverine's hair.
Okay.
And like teasing his hair out to the points. And they were like, no, it needs to be bigger, like keeping it accurate. Because the filmmakers are like, does it really matter? It's like, yes, it does.
That's so funny.
I think...
Yeah.
Using that, and that was in the 2000s, going back to the 90s, I just don't think you'd give a shit.
No.
Right? I think you'd be getting like amalgamations of certain characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things would be sort of like smacked together. So you would get like, instead of like a love triangle between, say, Cyclops, Wolverine, Jean Grey. Well, hey, here's this guy who's got knife for hands and
an optic blast.
or he's knife for hands and he's called Scott, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, my name's Scott Logan.
That rocks. Yeah, okay. I think, well, let's establish what characters definitely have to be there.
Okay, so I reckon...
Professor X,
yes.
Got to be there in some way.
And I think a good jumping off point is going to be the cast of Titanic.
Yeah, sure. These are actors that he wanted to work with.
I'm guessing so, because I think, and look, Billy Zane now could be a pretty decent
Billy Zane. Put Billy Zane back in movies.
Hell yeah. He's going bald.
Yeah.
He's looking great.
Oh, dude.
Let him be Xavier. Anyway, so I can... Billy Zane as Xavier.
Incredible.
I think would have been great. Kate Winslet as Jean Grey, I think would have been awesome.
Sure, yeah.
So yes, you've got Xavier, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Wolverine, I think are your mainstays.
Absolutely.
You probably want, like, in the 90s. Who else have we sort of got? So Beast, sure. But expensive.
Yeah, expensive. Unless you just go Beast, old school Beast.
Yeah.
Where he's just like a very sort of weird guy, but he looks like a human being.
Or you're like, well, that could be like a fun like werewolf thing to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and so you kind of look like, werewolf in London.
American
sort of like
werewolf.
That kind of stuff. So you could go.
What's good about Beast is that he's like such a good exposition character.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do that with Professor X as well, but Beast is good for being like, something's wrong with your mutation. I don't know why I did C-3PO, but yeah.
Plus, he's a good character to have who, he looks like a beast, but then he's, depending on which version, but like he's so very eloquent.
Yes, that's very true.
And so it can be that kind of like, I'm scared of this big, scary monster. Oh, he's quoting Shakespeare at me.
Wait, what the heck? My values.
Yeah, I don't understand. I was judging by a book.
Could you have a... I mean, it's expensive, but maybe not. If you're going for the Sons of Humanity... Nightcrawler's good, huh?
Friends of Humanity, yes.
Excuse me. Sons of the Soil.
Sons of the Soil,
That's anyway, Nightcrawler feels like a good choice because he looks like the devil. So it's like a very good in for like, they're big. I get their bigotry, but like, you know what I mean? They're very people scared of the devil. He looked like the devil.
He looked like devil. There was all these mutants. I think that's a good throwaway. Maybe.
Yeah, fair.
We've got. We've got mutants and they live. They look like this, and the devil himself.
Yeah. True.
Because he's a blue guy. He's got a tail. He teleports. That's a lot.
That's a lot to put in. That's true.
Then Storm would be a pretty good character to put in because, we know how to do lightning.
Oh, yeah, we can make it rain.
We can make lightning.
That's
we can
easy.
make it rain. Oh, my God, so easy. We can move clouds.
And all you got to do is be like, huge gust of wind, and then have your goons be like, whoa! Like, you can do that without special effects almost.
Yeah, I'm thinking your villains, you do... I think the good way about this, you'd be like almost not a paint by numbers, but a way of being the X-Men. And you got your Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And then you've got, the Friends of Humanity.
Yeah.
Friends of Humanity. And so with the Brotherhood, the evil mutants is, I think, Magneto would be good to have. And I'm always a big fan of Toad because I reckon you could get, like, say, Timothy Spall.
Oh, yes.
Of course, what was he doing in the 90s? Was he in... Was he?
If he was in Titanic, I'll shit my pants, dude. Who played? Who's Vespuccio gonna play? Or whatever Leonardo DiCaprio's best friend's name is.
Oh yeah.
Vespucci.
Yeah.
You know the guy.
Yeah, I know the guy.
He's like he has his own little adventure on the Titanic.
He
That's
does
really
have his
awesome.
own little adventure. Yeah. And so who else could you have as like villains? Because I think you either have like Magneto as your main.
Yeah.
big bad.
Yeah. Well, because then you can kind of explore, that's the complicated moral question at the heart of the X-Men. Do you kill the guys who hate you, or try to make them not hate you? That's sort of the kind of the part of the question. But I don't know other X-Men villains that are gonna translate to the big screen in an era when right now if the X-Men movie came out and they picked some obscure fucking guy, it's Slignor the Eradicator or whatever.
I'm gonna say Nimrod.
Sure, it's Nimrod is the bad guy. Then we're so trained to just be like, whoa, I can't wait for all the Nimrod movies,
I wonder if Nimrod's gonna become Bastion.
Yeah, whoa, they're definitely gonna do it. But back in the day, you didn't have to sort of worry about that. But I also think it means you wouldn't pick an obscure character. You know what I mean?
You could do like Apocalypse.
Oh, yeah.
But so it is this kind of, ancient evil, sort of like mutant. You'd have to kind of like, look, if you look at the past experience of like the filmmaking of say like this like Terminator, right? Yeah, where it's like, okay, cool, we've got this big behemoth kind of guy coming back from the future, but no, he's protecting, not destroying. So you imagine like Arnie, but in the Mr. Freeze kind of era.
Okay,
but you do that with Apocalypse.
Yeah,
you could kind of get away with that.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it's just like I'm trying to make survival of the fittest. Mutants, there's like this, here there's like mutants are appearing. There's like people, they're calling themselves Homo superior. I mean, are we being replaced? The humans being replaced?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the great replacement theory.
Oh, no, it's happening. But our replacements have fucking superpowers.
Yeah, they can shoot lasers from their eyes and hands.
I feel like it'd be a very 90s thing. I don't know if this is the movie he would have made, but it feels like a very 90s, like I feel like James Cameron is just a bit more competent than this. But it feels like a very 90s movie where it's about a character, and a brand new character created for the movie. And they discover they have superpowers. And they're like, Jesus fucking Christ, I've got superpowers. And then they get attacked by some bad guys who hate the superpowered people. Yeah. And they're saved by the X-Men. But the X-Men aren't like a group with a school. They're like a kind of underground militia. And they're like, hey, you think you're a freak, but you're Homo superior, bitch. And then it's like, now you got to train with us to take down Blair. Which kind of almost sounds like the plot of like it could be a Disney Channel original movie. So I feel like James Cameron's a bit better than that. But that feels like a 90s, you know what I mean? And it's a lot. It's kind of leather as well, but not as...
Yeah, it is hard to sort of like think about it in terms of what they could do for a film-going audience in that era.
Yeah.
That isn't kind of what they did for the 2000s.
Yes, absolutely,
Kind of like,
for sure.
Cool. Well, you've got, the pre-established heroes and villains, and the villain is like, well, everyone wants to persecute mutants. So if we're all mutants, how can they
persecute us? Absolutely.
And so they're going down that route and not realizing that by making everyone mutants in this way, you're turning them all into blobfish. So you need to stop that.
I wonder what do you reckon was the most comic accurate movie that came out pre like MCU? Like the most comic accurate where people were like, they've really, the thing fucking losers love to say these days where they say, oh, they respected the character. First of all, shut the fuck up. The guy's fake. But anyway, I wonder what was the most, because like if I think about the Batman movies, say, Jim Carrey's Riddler, like he's like a guy who works at like a toy factory. He's just like completely not what the Riddler is.
Tank Girl, was that pretty close to the comic? I don't know.
Maybe.
She makes love to a kangaroo man in that film. Great film.
She does indeed. She does indeed.
Spawn, was that comic book accurate? He goes to hell.
Who made Spawn? What's the guy? It's fucking McFarlane. Not Seth MacFarlane.
No,
Roy McFarlane.
Not Roy McTodd.
Todd McFarlane.
Did you know that he used to draw for Spider-Man?
Whoa!
He likes Spider-Man.
Stan Lee's favorite guy.
Suddenly they're no longer making a Spawn film, they're making a Spider-Man.
Damn it. I don't know. I just it's really hard to figure, because what I want to say is I want to be like, what's a competent, interesting X-Men movie that like draws from the comic books, but I don't know if that's what 90s superhero movies did. Yeah,
like you just got the theme is that it's like, okay, we're the minority and we're fighting to try to fit into a world that hates and fears us, right?
I think you can absolutely. That's a really good through line and basis for the movie. Yeah,
and like the 2000s, they use it as a sort of like a queer sort of
allegory. Yeah, for
like
sure.
In the 90s, like what terrible things happening in the 90s?
I don't know. I feel like it'd be
too young.
Yeah, me too. I would have been 1 when this came out. No, that's not true. I would have been whatever 8. But I don't know. I feel like it would be maybe some attempt to tackle race. Possibly, I could see them doing that.
But again, there's always that kind of like it was like the MLK and Malcolm X kind of people tend to kind of like put those with like Xavier and Magneto. Maybe they would have lent into that.
Yeah, more. That's true. But also, I wonder, is this the kind of movie James Cameron makes? You know what I mean? Not really. No. Not that he's not like a socially conscious like director, but it's just not. I don't think he makes stuff that's quite that allegorical. No. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But still, but then it's tricky because the X-Men are that allegorical. So you got to. I don't know.
And you've got Chris Claremont in the meeting, and like what he did was kind of make this living, breathing world. He wanted them to sort of keep growing up, and he wanted to move on and make those decisions and kind of whatever. And so he kind of pitched it as a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, okay.
And so it's this kind of like ensemble cast of that who are is this going to be one of those classic, Ohana means family.
Oh, yeah. They could do that.
Kind of stuff of like, family together strong.
Yeah.
That kind of like, it's good to,
you got to find together. Well, like it's like a found family sort of movie where it's like, here's a bunch of crazy misfits.
Well, it could be if it's going to do like something along the lines of like you follow one person, and whoever that person is, I don't know what
Cannonball,
they are. Let's say it's
Wolverine,
Cannonball.
but Cannonball's a good choice.
It's played by DiCaprio.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's going to be played by DiCaprio. And so you're going to have, let's say it's Cannonball there. And again, you do something where it's set, opening scene, you set it in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And like, I think he comes from like either like a mining family, like a coal mining family, that kind of thing. And, powers manifest, something like that. Maybe it's, they think he's caused a cave-in, but really if the cave-in has happened and he's there and he saves his dar, he saves some people because he's like, we're trapped. Oh, hang on.
My powers.
Grabs them. Blast out
the mine.
They're like, even though he saved him, there's some people who are like, no, he caused the cave.
He's dangerous.
And he's just like this simple hayseed, so he's got to be like, he's got to run.
It's funny how much this is like Man of Steel.
Yeah,
but I mean, doing it right, I guess.
Yeah, and so that there's that kind of thing where he's like, I tried to help. I was trying to save my father, and everyone like is thinking that I'm like this big villain that caused this cave-in. And so then he could almost, you could go, he leaves or he's like being persecuted, and then is it a race between, say, the Brotherhood and
who's going to get
him first?
Yeah,
which is what they sometimes did in the comics.
I could see that. And then if you do the thing where it's like him in that town, and in that town there's a faction of the Brotherhood of Humanity or whatever.
Simply just like, again, it's a kind of like just people who, they hate what they don't understand. They have to be the Brotherhood, the Friends of Humanity.
If you're doing that real kind of like butting of heads between Xavier and Magneto, it's like everyone in town hates this kid, and then Magneto can come in and be like, kid, wouldn't you love to destroy them all because they're so mean to you? And then Xavier could be like, they do not know what they do or whatever. Turn the other cheek, my son. They don't know what they do, my son. Turn the other cheek. I am like Christ.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah, because then that could be your.
You too. I've got an angel.
I died for your sins. I am Jesus Christ. I think I would
He's
join
got
the
an
X.
angel.
If he said
I've
that
got
to
an
me,
angel. I also got a demon boy.
yeah,
Quickly teleport to him. Nightcrawler.
I think if Professor Xavier said he was Jesus Christ, I wouldn't join.
No,
I would be like, there's a religious element to this.
yeah,
I
don't think so.
And I don't think Jesus Christ was a genius. I think by modern standards, he would have been dumb as fuck. I'll say.
Yeah,
Why would he be?
every generation we get a little bit
We
smarter.
get a bit smarter.
So,
Jesus would have been dumb as shit. Sure, he maybe died for our sins. Did he know what he was doing? Did someone explain it properly to him? We don't know. Would he have consented if he was like, "You're doing what? I'm dying for what?" No.
but he's kind of God, so he's infallible. So therefore, he
That's
would
true.
have to be.
And Omni is there one that's Omni clever?
Omniscience.
I'm not it. Yeah.
Omnipotent.
He's omnipotent, which is all
Omnipotent.
powerful.
And there's
Omniscient,
omniscient,
which
or
is
omniscience, which is
or-
all knowing.
yeah, all know. Which I guess that must be the intelligence.
Yes.
And then what's the other one?
What do you mean?
Is there another? There's
Another
three.
omni?
There's omnipotent, omniscient.
Omnipresent?
Maybe
Always
well,
around?
he is everywhere.
You're not wrong.
That sounded very much like I've completely bought it. Well, he is everywhere. God,
I don't know if you're pro or...
who can say? But yes,
Anyway.
and then I can imagine because James Cameron is quite good at capturing. This is a weird thing to say, but I think it's true. At capturing kind of the beauty of those like kind of barren. Like I'm thinking about some of the scenes in Terminator 2, where there's like quite a lot of like derelict buildings and stuff that they drive by. There's this kind of like grungy, abandoned vibe to that movie. And I think if you set this X-Men movie in like a small mining town, you could really use that kind of desolate landscape to your advantage. And then it's like, and also what that's great about is for filming it, you just get like a clay pit, like a mine or whatever, like a quarry.
The only
that they
issue
can have the
there
fights
is it's
in.
like, oh, it's an X-Men film and it's in this small, tiny town and a quarry.
is
And you kind of
true.
want it to be this, you really want it to be, that's maybe the first like act or the first opening thing because you want to kind of go to the school. You want it to go, you want to be like, it is a school, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, how about this for a dumb idea?
Yeah.
Instead of that, it's like, okay, yeah, it's an actual school.
Oh, okay.
Sort of what the other the Massachusetts Academy, I think they were called, but they had like the Hellions underneath, but then they had an actual school going on, and then when I think Morrison ended up writing, they were like, let's open up to regular people.
Yes.
So it could be a thing where it's like, okay, cool. Well, there's a school, and there is like the gifted class.
Honestly, I could see them doing this.
And so it's like you have the school, it's just a teenage drama kind of thing. And this is where it is like these first emergence of these main like mutants have ever been around for like a couple of years, maybe less than a decade.
Yeah.
And so you can like, okay, so yeah, we are reimagining it completely. Xavier is the headmaster. But then you've kind of got like, well, Scott Summers, Jean Grey as like teachers.
Oh yeah.
Like
And then you introduce like maybe a cast of like 3 or 4 new mutants.
Yeah.
New mutants. New mutants who are like,
and then
we're just students at the school, but
actually, you could borrow off New Mutants, and so that's what Cannibal, from is like New Mutants. So like perfect for DiCaprio.
Yeah.
And then you've kind of got like Wolfsbane, or like Moonstone or whatever, and it's like a bunch of different other like younger mutants who might not necessarily have like a fan base like say the 90s animated series has, the comics will have. You kind of have a bit more
room to kind of do what you want with the characters.
I reckon you could have easily done like it's a school. They're teaching there, and it's like the first day of school.
And then is it the kind
new
of
mutants coming in?
So they know they're mutants already, or is it like we're at? Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I reckon it's got to be like because like again the opening scene of like X3. That's the one with Warren.
I think I've
terrible
never seen
film,
that one.
But the opening scene is fantastic. It's Bird Boy basically like trying to like
pluck his feathers out and stuff. Yeah.
And like it's kind of played like the kid's masturbating, but he's not.
Yeah.
He's like
He's,
whatever,
ashamed of his wings and stuff.
God, such a fucking good opening scene. crap film, but such a good opening
So I guess
scene.
you can open with that, like, oh, we've got these mutant powers.
Yeah, like similar kind of thing like that,
Yeah.
where it's just like, depending on the mutant you're using, and it's like kind of like a quick thing, but then it's just like Xavier, like, you see some interesting things where there's a school you can come to. I own the school, a free tuition.
Could you do the thing where it's like the parents are like, you've got a fucked up power or whatever, but there's a school that will take you in, and they'll help you with your power.
Yeah, so you could either play like maybe like loving parents, who are like,
or like,
or who are like we're worried about there's been some rumblings of Friends Against Humanity. They don't like these kind of people around here, and so there's a school we can go to.
Kind of
or
like
you
when
can
a-
have the kind of I'm afraid of you. I don't know what to do.
Kind of like when a parent sends a kid to military school vibes. You know what I mean? It's almost like not a punishment, but then
it is.
Yeah, it is a punishment. It's a fucked up thing to do to your child. And then so then it's like they're at the school and they're developing their powers and they're being trained, and then
inciting incident might be the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Something happens, like Magneto is like, or like a law is passed, or Magneto does like the first strike, or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like there's these bubbling of these like these mutants with these fantastical powers, but we don't know what this really means. And suddenly, bang, here it is. And it can be this thing of like Xavier had been like, well, we've been trying to be impartial. We've been trying to do our own thing and just kind of be a school and teach people, and like maybe we're here to kind of blend in and not, hide ourselves. And then you can kind of get the like, well, we don't have to hide ourselves.
Yeah, you could
Why
have-
are we doing that? And then Xavier, it's for your protection, being a bit more protective dad. And then you could have like, say, Cyclops being like, oh, he's right. Jean Grey being like, no.
Yeah. We got to show
why
ourselves
are we hiding
off.
ourselves? We need to.
You could do
not
like
this.
it's like everyone's at the school and then Magneto makes an attack and they're like, oh, you got to all mutants. We got to get them. We got to kill them. And then the sort of middle part of the movie is like Xavier, like the school shut down and the mutant kids, if there's mutant kids separate to the main kids, it's like we got to go on the run and we got to flee. And then your turning point is, I think for a 90s movie, I feel like it's got to be the kids, the young mutants being like, hey, we can't hide in the shadows forever. We need to show them, but like also because
like convincing the older people
yeah.
to be like no, like,
we got to show them,
convincing the Jean Grey
and being like, but if we attack if we show our powers, the people will be scared of us, and they're like, but if we stop the evil mutants, people will realize.
that
we're
kind
good.
of thing of like they're seeing the Magneto attack or whatever, and they're like, someone should do something about this, and then they're like, we should do something about this.
Oh yeah.
And then it's a kind of like they go off on their own because like, well, parents won't let me do this. Let's, we go out and we sneak out and we try and do good. And then it's kind of like they do that, but they fuck up, or they get captured by whatever, or maybe one of them starts falling into like,
what if
Magneto was right? I don't know.
Yeah.
And so they start doing that, and then it's sort of like then the adults need to come in, and then it's just kind of like, oh, it's working together, generationals. It's the at that point, let's say the boomers and the Gen X working together.
Yeah, beautiful. Finally,
coming together to kind of make a better world.
Yeah. It's a very optimistic movie, which I guess James Cameron made. Like, I think that's not... I mean, the Avatar movies are sort of optimistic. Cuzzy. They're not super optimistic about humanity, but the Na'vi, yeah. Would you like...
He does like blue people, and mutants are mostly blue.
Absolutely, yeah. It's about Beast and...
Beast, Mystique, Apocalypse.
All the blue guys getting together, having a great time in a jungle.
Like, there's a lot. There's a lot. Maggot. There's a lot of blue people.
I guess because blue is like... It's the... this is weird to say. But it's the only color with no association. If you make a guy red, he's the devil. You make a guy green, he's poisonous or the Hulk. And then blue, it shows that it's different. It's alien, it's strange, but we don't associate it with anything already.
Yeah.
That would be my guess as to why so many mutants are blue.
Yeah.
What other colors are there? Pink would look silly. Oh no, pink's all right, but it's also a bit gross. It's a bit fleshy. If you make a character pink. Yeah, all black and all white, again, connotations. But blue's safe. There are a lot of blue mutants.
There are heaps of blue mutants.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Would you watch this movie?
Of course I would.
I mean, sorry, would you enjoy this movie?
Of course it was. I was like, a
fair.
child.
You would have been, good point. It would have just been awesome to see superheroes.
I watched the Generation X film when that came out, and that is dog shit. But I enjoyed it.
What's the Generation X movie?
It just has the name Generation X.
Oh, I do know the Generation X movie. Yeah.
It's got the guy who played Lex Luthor in the 90s Superman, Lois and Clark. Whoa. As maybe the guy in charge. I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That rocks.
Yeah,
I love man.
I love that film.
Yeah.
But I was a child.
Yeah. Yep. Do we think in this world where James Cameron releases his optimistic, sort of like dark academia X-Men movie, his career, does he make Avatar? Do you think it continues on in the same trajectory? Do we think this movie would do well, or would it flop?
I reckon it might have done well, because it might have capped, like, if it had sort of, by James Cameron, and it had done well, and it had these kind of stories of like this kind of capturing those fantastical elements. You're kind of getting like almost that sort of Harry Potter before it was Harry Potter. It's that kind of like, it's a school for gifted people.
That's true. It's really selling the fantasy of like,
it's the future is bright.
Absolutely.
Maybe things aren't looking great, but if we just work together and understand our differences, hey, that might be.
I think that would be such a. If you think about Terminator 2. From memory, it ends on an optimistic note, but it's like we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
but we've defeated this Terminator. The future is going to be okay.
Yeah, so you're coming out of the 80s where the a lot of dystopian futures.
Yeah.
And so you're approaching the year 2000. Right? And so again, it's this kind of thing of like everyone freaking out about Y2K.
Yeah.
But also you're like, hey, maybe things are
going to be all right. Maybe there's a bright future ahead.
Grunge. Yeah, is coming into the
I think that
you kind of got this this weird the Gen X is kind of like.
I want to say that the early 2000s were the most but this is probably wrong. I feel like we haven't been optimistic since the 1950s. But I feel like that's when we were like, I'll drink nuclear waste to fuck my wife better or whatever. But I feel like the early 2000s were another time.
No, you got 9/11.
Oh, right. 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah. So you kind of got this, I reckon, that sweet spot between 97 and the year 2000.
Yes.
Maybe. You kind of got people who are optimistic and things are looking pretty good.
You're like, well, it's a new millennium. Who knows what'll happen?
New millennium. You've kind of got what was we hadn't really had an economic downturn for a while.
No, that's true. Oh,
the 90s weren't that bad, right?
I have a feeling, based entirely on the fact that the Simpsons family is always struggling for coin in those early seasons, that there was a bit of an economic downturn in the 90s. So there's a chance. But but that doesn't mean that James Cameron isn't going to release an optimistic movie.
Was there a recession in the 90s?
There's an according to the Wikipedia, early 1990s recession.
92.
Okay. I guess we would have been coming out of the recession by 97 or 98. But he could still release an optimistic movie. Maybe it would just be more optimistic like Terminator 2 is, where at the end it's not like we work together to save the day. It's like we work together and now humanity is undecided on how they feel about the mutants. But we can only hope that in time they will learn to accept us or something. You know what I mean? It's not like humanity.
We don't need to hide ourselves. We don't need to hide away. We are who we are. Deal with it.
It's going to be a long journey to true acceptance from humanity, but we're taking the right steps.
Yeah. Could they do look, sure, there are trash mutants.
Yeah, there are bad mutants. We're the good ones.
Just like there are bad humans. We're just like you. We are
they could.
Multifaceted.
Yeah. We contain multitudes.
Yeah. I think there needs to be this kind of this little bit of optimism through line.
But I think you can't, but I think looking at it now, thinking about with the 90s, you can't go too optimistic to the point where people are like, this is just I don't know. So exactly.
Yeah.
You got to kind of thread that needle. But I think Jimmy Cameron could do it.
Yeah.
I think if anyone could, James Cameron could.
Yeah.
Here's another question. I know we're late into the episode, but one more question is regarding him making this movie. Now, James Cameron loves to make a movie so he can use a new technology. Is there a technology or a place he'd like to go that he could use the X-Men for? If he was going to make Titanic afterward, so I'm fairly sure he only made Titanic because he wanted to go down and see the Titanic. Could he have made this movie, the X-Men movie, about Titanic? Done it early.
Could he have made these mutants exploring underseas?
Yeah, and like maybe Namor is the bad guy.
Maybe
Namor is one of them. He's a mutant.
Yeah,
Namor is a bad guy, and he's going to destroy
heaps with the Fantastic Four at that point, and still to this day. But that said. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's the 90s.
It's the 90s. My swing for the fences X-Men movie is Namor is going to destroy Titanic.
or there's the opening scene where it's like, Namor, like he's the one that summoned that
the iceberg to destroy the Titanic. And he's always hated humanity, and now he's finally going to flood the earth, and so the X-Men have to stop him.
Yeah, my swing for the fence for this one would have been that we get some mutants through time, and then Jesus Christ himself.
Whoa!
A mutant.
Our Lord and Savior.
Our Lord and Savior.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's great. Walking on the water.
Yeah.
He's, making water into wine. He's like basically a water-based mutant.
He brought Lazarus back from the dead.
Oh, my God.
That's... tipped over that table at one time.
Oh, tipping over that table. Man, he did so many
What a
things.
miracle that was.
Being like, damn you money lenders.
Stop lending
Fuck
money
your
in
table.
the table. I fucking hate your table. I hate you guys.
Yeah. You know what? What I'm going to do to this table is what I wish I could do to you.
What do you think about that? Yeah. Well, that is annoying, Jesus. I'm going to have to pick that up when you leave.
Can you? What if I turned your blood into wine?
Oh, my God! You're not the son of God. You're a monster.
You thought I was a goddamn fucking lamb? No. I'm the lion.
I'm not even an animal you know. What the hell is happening? Wow, that's a scary version of the Bible.
Yeah, scary version. While we're talking about the 90s, I guess, again, cast-wise, who would you like?
Who would I like?
Who would you like
in this?
So I know we've been going, DiCaprio was Cannibal. I think that's just a lock. I think that's kind of just the one that you kind of want to do.
Try to think of who would make a good Professor X in the 90s. Time to just try and remember any 90s actor.
Try to remember the 90s.
Yeah. I love to do this. Who was an actor in the 90s? Why can I not think of a single person?
Let's see, has anyone done some
what
like
if
what
if people's 90s fan casts?
That kind of stuff. Let's see if we agree or disagree with some of the things that people are talking about here. So they've gotten first off the bat, someone has gone Ben Kingsley as Charles Xavier, and that rules.
That's awesome, and that's great. Great choice.
Great choice.
What are you doing?
You know what? He was great in Sexy Beast, and I think he'd be great as Professor X.
Chuck him in.
But that said, I think Patrick Stewart would have been
Patrick Stewart, he would have just played a younger...
Yeah, because he was
still only like 10 years later, or not even, that he did...
doing all the Star Trek stuff, so that could be fine then. They've got, someone's gotten, Freddie Prinze Jr. as Scott Summers as Cyclops.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. I guess not too bad.
I can see that.
Alicia Witt, don't know who that is.
Yeah.
As Jean Grey.
Oh, yeah.
I still think Kate Winslet.
Yeah. Kate Winslet, good choice.
One.
Kiefer Sutherland.
As Beast, I don't think so.
No,
thank you. But James Van Der Beek as Angel from Dawson's Creek's own. James Van Der Beek. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put him in. I think the weird thing is that a lot of the actors that played the X-Men in the 2000s movie because
would have been fine except for, I guess, Hugh Jackman.
Yes,
he's an unknown person.
Yeah.
Because there was Doug Ray Scott was already cast as Wolverine, but then Mission Impossible kind of went over filming, so that's why they got Hugh Jackman in.
That's so interesting.
Imagine that career
trajectory. What the fuck?
God damn, poor Doug Ray Scott. So yeah, because he kind of thinking about they have someone he's written like Russell Crowe as Wolverine.
As Wolverine.
Yeah, but I don't know, because you kind of want you want a little guy.
Absolutely, Russell Crowe's he's got bruiser energy. You need someone. Yeah. You need backed into a corner. Energy, which I guess Hugh Jackman doesn't really have heaps of, but he's got enough that it works. Yeah. Matthew Broderick is Deadpool. What do we think about that?
a fan.
Yeah, I think that would rock.
I'm a fan.
You know, they already got that at the end of the first Deadpool movie. They've got a Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I mean, I don't think Deadpool would be in this movie, but still.
I'm trying to think. Okay, let's just go with
Robin Williams.
What are some sort of like films that came out in the 90s? Maybe some Academy Award winners here. Let's see.
Williams is Beast.
Robin Williams would be a
Williams
pretty
would be a good
decent
Beast.
Matt Damon would also be pretty decent as like one of the new kids.
Yes, absolutely. Oh yeah, true.
Like imagine getting like Matt Damon, maybe like what's his name? Maybe even like let's say Guy Pearce. Maybe not.
Could you go Russell Crowe?
As
I don't know. He was big in the 90s.
Yeah, it's
Wolverine? Who's your Magneto? Because that's also important. I don't know.
I think a good Magneto,
Yeah.
really to kind of sell it.
Yeah.
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino?
Yeah.
These are fucking humans. Huge ass.
Xavier. You know, the biggest problem with humans is they don't have a great ass.
I need a great ass, Xavier.
Know what my mutant power is?
I got a great ass. This movie's awesome. I'm 8 years old and I can tell that. If this movie is the best thing I've ever seen, that would change me. That would alter the trajectory of my life.
You know what I reckon would be a really decent version of Scott Summers?
Yeah.
Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like
90s Tom Hanks, absolutely.
All-American Boy Scout
Yeah.
Tom Hanks. Because again, they did him dirty in the films.
Yeah,
They
sure.
And Scott Summers is great. I really like Scott Summers. One of my favorite characters. And I think he's a proven leader. And I think Forrest Gump.
Jenny. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Forrest
Gump.
Actor Tom Hanks as... Show me Tom Hanks in the 90s.
Yeah.
Computer, pull up Tom Hanks in the 90s.
Google, show me Tom Hanks, who I wrote with 2 O's.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks.
Show Tom Hanks.
in the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
As a sort of Scott Summers, especially if you go to that kind of like more of a teacher route.
Yeah, oh yeah. An older Scott Summers. I mean, like not that much older, but just like not a
teen.
Not a teen. Yeah. Because how old was Tom Hanks in the 90s? I'm gonna guess like fucking 35.
How old Tom Hanks?
It's also awesome to say how old was he in the 90s and say 35. That's a decade.
Yeah, dude.
What year? We'll never know.
no.
That's okay. Tell for us.
Yeah. They're giving me like, as of today. I'm like, that doesn't help.
No, that's not what I asked. Show me, just like give me like, I guess you got to pick a time.
92, let's say.
92. You got to pick a.
You know.
Why is this not
Why?
accessible to me?
Why
This is
are
what
you
the
not
internet's
telling me?
fucking for. I should just be able to ask the air. Elon Musk got to put that fucking chip in my brain so I can say, Elon Musk, how old was Tom Hanks in the 90s?
He was about 36 years old.
That's what I want to get in response.
He was about 36 years
Instead if I
old.
put Elon Musk's chip in my brain, I'll just fucking die. I'll think the wrong thing.
like
and
all
that'll
those
be...
poor monkeys.
Exactly. And Elon Musk will be like, don't worry.
No monkeys
He was going to
died.
kill himself
No,
anyway.
No monkeys died. It was fine.
Jackson was already going to die from something else, so it's fine that he died from my chip.
Exactly.
Okay. 36. Yeah, that'd have been fine.
Yeah.
He'd have been perfect for it.
So I guess Stan Lee robbed us of a beautiful film that could have been.
Yeah, but I also loved that people kept bringing Stan Lee into meetings where he had nothing of worth to say. Excelsior!
Yeah. And on that note, I've been Joel.
I've been Jackson.
And it's been another episode of the Basic Speculation.
And we've been the BS boys, wouldn't you know it?
Yeah, I guess don't invite Stan Lee to your meeting.
Yeah, that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
Bye!